Yeah. 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 Welcome to the 2025 Week 10 podcast, Week 10 preview. I am here with Mike Furlano and Kenton Swade. Mike, how did your week go? Ironically, I'll ask you that first.
Well, I mean, if you ever blocked a Paul Paradine shot and hit your foot, and you're like, oh wow, that hurts. It's gonna leave a welt. Well, I did that with my face last week. So that was my week, about midway through the game, but doing good.
Yeah, and we were talking about it before the podcast, but last week I blocked one of your shots with my mouth, and then you said that you left your stick behind, and they had like a what was it, like some sort of tape, and I said it tasted like fish when it hit me in the mouth. So I'm sorry it happened to you, but then I asked you to the podcast, and I asked you, let me know what you saw last week, which was a poor choice of words on my part, and I do apologize. Talk to me a little bit about what happened. Like, was it in the middle of the game? I unfortunately wasn't there.
Yeah, so it was early in the second period, a real tight game. I foolishly decided to play defense. That's never going to happen again. Paul went up to take a shot. I put my stick kind of in front of it, and the puck deflected right off my stick, straight into my eye. And then the first 2 or 3 seconds, you're thinking, okay, there goes my vision, gone.
Right.
Like the impact and pressure. And then, you don't even want to take your hand off your eye because, I don't want to face that reality.
Right.
Then, there's blood kind of everywhere. And then, you get up because it doesn't really hurt. It was more so the shock and the impact.
Right.
And that's when everyone's kind of taking a look and they're like, okay, you definitely need to go to the hospital. Because I had a gash right under my eye. I don't know if you guys can see it a little bit different, but stitched up real nice. I had Rochester's preeminent facial doctor come and help out after the game. It should be Dr. K.
Dr. K connection right there. I mean, if we have one good thing.
He called RGH. He let me know I was coming, and then after our game, he drove over and made sure everything was great. It's healed up, pretty nicely. It was bad, the next day, in terms of how it looked. But other than that, it's been fine. I am definitely going to wear some sort of eye protection going forward. I don't know if I can do the full cage, but definitely goggles at least to start.
Yeah, and in my case, when I got hit by yours, it was if I didn't have that mouthpiece in, and I've had it happen before where I've lost teeth in this league, and from that point on, I started wearing a mouthpiece. Boys and girls, please wear a mouthpiece and eye goggles. I know Tim Anderson has a good story. Kenton, talk to me a little bit about. Actually, I want to ask you: were you in the league when Tim Anderson got hit, Kenton?
Yep, I was on his team.
You were on his team, okay?
Yeah,
and I heard that was pretty brutal.
That was my first forewarning into wearing protective eyewear as well.
Yeah.
And then a couple seasons after that, I took a puck to the eye from Dr. K, ironically, for Lano's team. Same sort of thing. Like it was, it was very scary. The initial impact, didn't want to take your hand away from the eye, but then, took a look at it and it was fine. And it looked worse, a lot worse than it was.
Yep.
Hockey injury, and thankfully no permanent damage from that. But I've definitely worn eyewear ever since.
Okay, and especially in goal, right?
Yeah. I wear less eyewear in goal for some reason.
I just look at those old NHL games from the 1910s, and the goalies didn't have a mask. I'm like, what?
Dude, until the 50s, they didn't wear masks. Yeah. I'm just like, why subject yourself to that?
Yeah. Ken, what did you see in what did you see in your game this week? I know you guys had a tough one. How did it go?
Yeah, I mean, it was a defensive battle for sure. We felt like we moved the puck well. We had a lot of good movement, a lot of good shots. It was a low scoring game. I think the final was 6-4. Yeah, it was 6-4, which all the games this week were pretty low scoring. There was only one team that had double digits. But yeah, we just couldn't capitalize on all of our chances, and I think it was 2-2 going into the third, and we just gave up a couple of fluky goals in the third, and we couldn't get over the hump.
Gotcha. And for Lano, when I saw the score your game, and with no context, I didn't know that you missed obviously the end of the second and the third, so it makes a little bit more sense to me. Not that the team you were playing was bad, but I expected it to be a little bit more. How was the game going up until the injury for you guys, and what did you see in your game?
Yeah, so I mean, it was real tight. I think it was 2-2 when I left, and it was just kind of, it was really defensive. A lot of chasing down on both sides. Goalies were playing out of their minds. I think at the end of the game, Brett had like a 94 or 95%, and so did Kazmark.
Yep.
Paul is having a resurgent year, probably the best that he's played in years.
Yep.
And I think that kind of overshadows, Brett's having a great year, probably the best that he's played in the past few years. Yep. Those two guys together, I mean, that's going to be dangerous going forward. And then the rest of the team is so stout. They chase everything down. They don't really give you space. And then knowing that, Paul's there at any moment to either take a shot, rush up. So yeah, I was happy that it was 2-2, and I was happy with the game that we were playing. We were getting some good secondary score. I think Blotz had, both of the goals
nice.
for us at the time.
Nice.
We were moving the puck very well. And then, I mean, I thought it went well. I wish I was actually more frustrated that I didn't get to finish the game because we were having a great time. Yeah. But we'll see him in the playoffs eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best part about it is that everybody makes the playoffs. And I was looking at the playoff bracket earlier, and I didn't know what to make of it. It was, just so many different scenarios, and I just wish I don't know. I can you guys explain it? I haven't seen any.
Somebody say playoffs. We got playoffs. I've been trying to think about what is going to go on with these playoffs, and all day I've just been trying to think about how do we
Sweet's in his office.
How do we get to 610? How do we get to 610, guys?
I have no idea. I'm glad you're here. We were here at the podcast, and I didn't know how we were going to talk about the playoffs. So I'm really glad you're here.
I've been all day. Look at this. I got Firestorms divided by Surge plus Meteor squared over X Fukushima. How do we get that? We got the Twisters multiplied by the Tacticians over Y plus the Les Tremblements, and Y equals 610. So what does that get us? What does that get us?
That is complex.
The cup. Everything leads to the cup. All of the lines lead right to the cup.
Huh.
I'm trying to figure out. The only thing I know so far in my findings is that the Sinkhole Sidewinders are the number 1 seed. I know that for sure. Hands down, they're the number 1 seed. That is true. That's a true statement right there.
Okay.
The other thing I know is that if the Tipsy Talking Twisters, if they lose, no matter what else happens, they're the 5 seed. Automatically 5 seed if they lose. Those two things I know.
That's about it.
Fact I know. I know one more fact. The Troublemakers, the Tremblements. I'm watching the Canadians game. The Tremblements. If they lose, they're the 8 seed. They can't do any better if they lose.
Huh.
Those are the three things that I know for sure are happening. Because if Meteor wins and then Firestorm wins and then Fukushima, they could win or lose, and then that affects how the twisty talky twisters that got me all twisted up. I don't know. I'm gonna spend the rest of the night trying to figure this out, guys. You guys are gonna have to have a good night doing this. So
I think you need to study. You need to study more, and hopefully he's got it figured out by Wednesday. Boy, that was
like hockey. It's like hockey Sudoku. We got the 5, we got the 8, and then
That's the commissioner of the RFHL. He's been down in his basement for the past 3 days trying to figure things out, and I think he just can't get things figured out. Did you guys in your team chats kind of figure out this different scenarios for Lano?
I mean, so I'll be honest, our team chat is dead silent. We've all played, and so at certain points, okay, we know we're going to win. We know we're going to play our style. We're old dogs. We're not going to play any different than we usually play. And it's kind of worked for us. But yeah, there's sometimes that chat doesn't ring at all during the week. I'm like, okay, I assume everybody's coming.
Yeah. And Ken, I was talking to 2.0 before your last game, and he was I'm the same as Furlano's team. There's basically no chat. 2.0 told me you guys are like talking all week and have different, not even like strategy. You guys have all kinds of different stuff you guys are talking about.
Yeah, our chat is a bunch of 13-year-old girls. We chat about everything. I don't know. We don't have other friends or lives or something. I don't know what it is, but I mean, we talk hockey all week, but we'll also just talk about random crap. And obviously, it's a great place to make some custom GIFs.
Okay.
Hard G.
Do you guys talk strategy at all? If so,
we have every day of the week is designated for a different topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. But you guys haven't gone over your playoff scenarios. I thought 2.0.
No, we haven't gone over the scenarios yet. I heard rumor that Sweet had a murder board, but
yeah.
The
I mean,
level of detail though is just a
yeah. He didn't really do as much as I thought with that murder board as far as what's going on. So it sounds like this has been a heck of a season for parity in the RFHL. Guys, I wanted to talk to you about maybe next bring it to that very thing. We had a lot of parity in the RFHL last year. Furlano, what has been your favorite thing about this season so far?
I mean, there's a bunch of things. I want to say the influx of fresh blood, the rookies coming in, it's kind of changed the feeling of the league. The league's always been fun. But at a certain point it gets a little, same old. You see all the same players, you've been all the same teams. But having these new guys come in and are contributing immediately kind of changes the whole dynamic of the league. And so it's nice having fresh, skilled blood to kind of mix things up. I feel like, I've played with guys in years and years that I'm able to play with now just because we have different dynamics in the draft. The draft isn't going the same way anymore.
Right.
So I think the new influx of rookies, new playing styles has been my favorite thing so far this year.
And the unpredictability with those rookies, definitely, I feel that for sure. And Kenton, I know you had some thoughts too on the topic. Tell me a little bit about what you've thought about the best changes we've made this year.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Furlano, but that would be a cop out to say that. I mean, we've all the three of us have played in this league for a long time. So it's definitely fun to get some new blood, mix things up a little bit. But I think my favorite would probably be the broadcast teams. So not just having one person broadcast, but by having broadcast teams, it allows people to try out different styles. Having play-by-play and color, and then we throw in we did some in-game interviews, and I don't know, it's just really fun and refreshing to hear different people's perspective on calling our games, and it gives it a little bit of legitimacy, and it makes it more of a production to listen to and watch after the fact, which I don't know, it helps keep you in the game.
Yep.
If I'm going back and watching the stream of the game or listening to it, sometimes it's not necessarily super exciting, even though who's playing. Having a little bit of production value just makes it more entertaining, and it's more fun to consume.
Sure. And I would have to add the podcast itself that we kind of brought back. I was watching 2.0 and Tim and Kazmark doing the draft show, and I was like, man, why don't we do this every week? We used to do that at Kurt's studio, I believe, back in the day, and Skidmore sang a heck of a song to begin. I want to bring that back sometime, by the way. But this podcast has been fun, and this year it's been me, 2.0, and Anders producing, but next year I think we're going to have a lot of hands on deck who are going to quote unquote produce and host the show. So I'm hoping that grows for next year as well. All right. So I appreciate that. And this started a couple of weeks ago with Rob Anders, because at first I gave credit to 2.0, but on how you got into the league. But I really like hearing everybody's story about how they got into the RFHL, especially a couple of veterans like you guys both. And I think, Furlano, you and I both came in. I came in during the Game of Thrones season. Is that when you came into?
Same one. Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I think it's fall 2014.
Yeah. Have you played? You played in every season since then. Is that right?
Every season. There was one season where I broke my hand 3 games in, and so then I didn't play that one. But yeah, I played in every season since.
But were you drafted on that team, or did that happen like you broke your hand during RFHL hockey, or was that when you were
Yeah. So it was like game 3. It was 3rd game, and we were doing well. And then I broke my hand. Like the stick went into the wall, and my hand went into like the butt end of the stick, and yeah.
So how did you hear about the league? Like, how did you hear about the league?
So I moved to Rochester late 2013, and then I think it was like early winter. I'm like, I'm bored. I got to find some hockey somewhere. And so I just Googled Rochester hockey, and then the Facebook page for this league came up. I messaged them. They were in the midst of their spring season. They said we do a draft, blah blah blah. Yeah. But keep in touch and we'll let you know. And then so they advertised it again in the fall. I lived like 2 blocks away from the old Y down in my garage.
Nice.
But,
nice.
Did the whole walk in, sign up, put your deposit down, and then did that, and I've been playing ever since.
Nice.
Real fun.
Back in the day, people who were trying to get into the league had to get to the Y early. Like they had to. I've heard a few stories where people were waiting in line for the Y to open. I think it opens at like 6 o'clock in the morning. But Kenton, I think you're the OG on this call. You've been here even before Fulano and I. How long? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I started in season 3.
Okay.
I have missed a few seasons since then.
Yeah.
Some of it because of a state that won't be named. But it was also during COVID, so we'll blame it on that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think this is like my 24th season.
Okay. And how did you hear about like the RFH? Like, were you a member of the Y? Or?
Well, I was talking to D'Angelo because he's on my team earlier this week about it. Me, Bob, and John Kipfer. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Okay.
Or if he was still in the league when you guys joined or not.
Yeah.
He was a college friend of Bob and mine and D'Angelo's.
Okay.
And Kipfer and Bob and I joined at the same time in season 3. And D'Angelo and I weren't exactly sure, but we think that Kipfer knew Connor Dixon Schwabel, who used to be in the league back in the day.
Okay.
And we think that was our in, but we're not really positive. But I mean, once we joined, I mean, it's a cult, and just brought people along with us ever since, and can't get away, even when my wife tries to, move us 1,000 miles away.
I was gonna say, I remember when I was gonna ask this question, I'm like, Ken's gonna have an interesting answer because he had to miss a few years. He was watching the RFHL from an unnamed state. We won't say what it is, but it was for work, right? If I recall, or your wife's work, or just Florida. Oh, I gave it away. What an idiot!
No, it was. I mean, we don't have to go into it, but it was. It was heavily influenced by my wife.
Okay. Better weather.
Work. I still work for the same company. I've
worked
for them for 14 years, so I work for them down in Florida.
Gotcha.
Remotely.
And I have to give credit to Chris Lally and JJ Wagner for my into the RFHL. Lally had posted on Facebook. I went back to, I was in high school with Lally, and actually hadn't seen him since at the time, but he posted something about, man, this league looks awesome, just like by I think it was one of Kurt's photos. And then JJ Wagner, I saw him post something about it too back in the day. I'm like, oh man, I know 2 people in the league. So went into the Y. It wasn't as early as some people have registered. I think I went in like on my lunchtime to go in and register, and I got into
you had time back then. There was a good day. You didn't have to like open your phone and 8:01. I got you.
Exactly. I probably would have missed the league if I had to get up before. But yeah, I definitely wasn't influenced by the time, and casually walked in there and registered. So and that was when we played at the Y. Still miss the Y here and there, but I love where we're at now at Derecatora. So we got to talking about the playoffs, and Sweet kind of gave us the playoff rundown. Basically, the Tremblemonts are the 8 seed if they lose this week. They're getting hot again. We had to play against them last week with Dan Hook coming back, and he hurt his arm. He didn't hurt his legs because he was running circles around us. And then the 5 seed has also been determined. Sounds like with the Tipsy Talking Twisters. Guys, I'll start with Kenton this time. Who's a team that you've played against this year that you don't want to see in the playoffs? Who's a team that's really kind of they may have your number, or they just have a certain style? What are your thoughts on that, Kenton?
Well, because you phrased the question, a team that I've played against, I'm not going to choose Storm Surge because they are the one team that I miss playing against this season.
Okay.
I definitely do not like facing foes. However, team-wise, I think I'd have to go with Sinkhole. You guys have, in my mind, the top, goalie scorer combination. No offense to anyone else.
Right.
But I hate facing Brad, and Alex is just playing out of his mind this season. And I think all of your complementary pieces are playing fantastic, and that's what it takes to win hockey games.
Sure.
But it also takes the ability of someone to, snipe a goal with 0.5 seconds left in a game, and Brad can and has done that this season.
Yeah.
And Alex can also, make incredible saves and stop that very thing from happening as well. So I think that's the one thing that I don't want to see in the playoffs.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And Furlano, how about you?
So I think it kind of all depends, who you are as a player. For me, it's more like certain players that you don't like, certain styles.
Right.
For us as a team, we had a lot of trouble against Tsunami Tacticians. Reddit, he's an animal.
Yeah.
He runs around. He's sneaky. He's physical. And they have a really good team. And when Tim is standing tall, that might be one of the better offensive teams in the game. They gave us a lot. I'm pretty sure they beat us. They gave us a lot of trouble. And just for me personally, like, I don't like playing Reddit. It's exhausting. So for me, it's Reddit or guys like Reddit that run around a lot and are skilled players like a Dan Hook, and then are just physical enough to kind of jostle you a bit, make you more exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably. I mean, look, Brad is obviously nobody wants to play against Brad. He can score 1 million goals. But I think Reddit is right up there.
Absolutely.
Rob, doesn't it sound like Mike's talking about himself? Like how we all feel about him?
Yeah. The fastest, one of the fastest in the league, and definitely can outmaneuver you and never stops hustling. That's why you and Dan are kind of like tough. Like, who should I take, Dan or Furlano? It's just like you guys are both so tenacious and all over the place. But
Father Time will tamp that down soon enough. Don't worry about it.
We all are. That's for sure. And it's funny that I asked both of you guys on this podcast because I really felt like both of your teams were incredibly tough to play against. That I've announced a few games where Sweet and 2.0 are scoring goals that are just like the chemistry that they have, and you guys had some really good chemistry at the beginning of the year. Like I said, I've done some of your games where you guys were just like blocking shots. There's not a bad player on anybody's team, but like your team in particular, it's like, man, where's your weakness? You guys don't have one. And then Furlano's team, my gosh, very physical. We talked about at the draft, nobody wanted to play your team. You got Dr. K and Furlano are arguably, like, Dr. K, I remember I picked him 4th overall one year, and then you got Furlano on the same team. And it's just like, man, who do we push up against? And then Kadmark and goalie has been playing out of his mind this year as well. But I really think the parity in this league this year has been off the charts. I mean, we had it last year when the 8 seed won it, and everyone's saying, oh, we're the 1 seed or whatever. Right now, that means nothing to me because any team can beat any team, honestly. If you really sit down and study it, all the games we've won have been like 1-goal games where Brad sniped one at the end, so it's like that could have gone either way, any of those times. So
yeah,
I really feel like
I think that's why like the playoff matchups maybe isn't as top of line for a lot of teams.
Right.
It's like it doesn't matter. I mean, they're 1 through 8. It's a great set of teams.
Yeah.
And like I know me personally, like I don't think it matters whether we finish 3rd or 4th in terms of who we play.
Right.
I mean, I think maybe you want to avoid playing the 1 seed in the 2nd round. But other than that, it's like doesn't matter. Everyone's going to give you a hard time.
Yep. And I don't even want to play Dan. I mean, like I said, the Tremblements, they got Dan Hook back last game, and they played us like unbelievably. Like we only beat them by a goal, and it was barely that. I mean, they were coming out towards the end, just really putting the pressure on us. And Dan just brings another whole dynamic to his team. So definitely appreciate your thoughts on that, guys. As it's very, very, very tough call. So
one thing I just wanted to bring up real quick about the parity. What's weird is that you look at 6 of the 8 teams in the league all have almost identical goals against,
right?
And like like if you look at the scores weekly, like the scoring seems to be way down. There's very few weeks where there's more than 1 or 2 teams in double digits.
Yep.
And then there's 2 teams that have scored the most amount of goals that seem very offensive. Like,
yep,
that's their style. But like the other 6 of us are very we're very defensive first.
Sure.
But stylistically, you could have it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean,
right.
It should be all over. It could be totally opposite of what you think the matchup would play out, of how it would play out, or I mean, like Furlano's saying, the parity is just insane.
Yep. And do you guys remember back in the day when Zach Davis played at the Y, he would always talk about defense and like the defense in this league. And I think it's kind of funny, like when we started playing outside where we had the tiny goals during COVID, I think that made me at least a better defensive player, because like you don't even want people to shoot. And I think there's a lot of players in our league, Furlano being one of them. Kenton, you were like that with my team last year too, where you're trying to block as many shots as you can. You don't even want to be shot on the goalie, What have you guys thought about like how the outdoor has had effect on us?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year I ended up playing pretty much playing goalie for a lot of our games.
Yeah.
Just because, you don't want anybody taking shots, and then you can kind of see the whole floor and you get a better sense of the game, or the whole, with cement or whatever.
Yep.
And I think, that's kind of translated into me personally being, at least defensively minded. I won't go so far as a defensive person, but at least I appreciate it more. I can see, maybe I should have been there rather than just being oblivious to it.
Sure. And I definitely agree with that. And that's speaking of kind of, we played last summer. I had Furlano and Hook on my team. I just sat back and relaxed outside because can you imagine that? You might imagine that dynamic duo. I mean, Dr. K and Furlano is one thing, but Dan Hook, I mean, Dan Hook was just like trying to run circles around. It was like, holy crap.
It was just like, we just passed the ball up to Dan, just pass over everyone's head. And then he would run around, tire everybody out, and then someone would just come in and tap it.
We had you back playing defense some of the time and then scoring some of those goals. So, all right, great. So wanted to talk a little bit about previews for next week is we have at 6:30 the Meteor Mayhem at the Los Tremblements. Of course, I'm mispronouncing the heck out of Tremblements again. The Storm.
I think the key, Rob. So the key is the T is silent. So it's Los Tremblements.
Tremblement. And that's right. It's funny because I don't know if you guys listened to the first broadcast, but Alex pronounced it right. Dan pronounced it right, and you're Canadian, so you got the French speaking in your home country. So that's pretty funny.
I was actually surprised. People are pronouncing it right.
Are they? Okay, except for me.
You got to get that rolling.
Yeah, I got to get that.
It's a fun name to say.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as the event, I guess it's it's an earthquake, right? But 7:30 the Storm Surge play at the Firestorm Hockey Club, and then 8:30 Tipsy Talking Twisters play at Fukushima Face Off, and 9:30 the Tsunami Tacticians play at the Sinkhole Sidewinders. And I'm going to have us each cover one that I talked about. But for 6:30, you got the Meteor Mayhem at Dan Hook's Les Tremblements. Furlana, what do you think of this matchup coming off of me talking about a little bit about Dan? Talk to me a little bit about this matchup in your head, Meteor Mayhem at Tremblements.
So, I mean, we just played Meteor last week. Meteor has Paul Paradine, and Paul Paradine is having a great season. They got Cody and Bob as well, and then you have Dave King on the back end, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just like, so even if you make your way through, you got Dave King standing there, just thwarting any sort of offense you got, and if you get through them, you have Brett and net. And so, like on paper, they have one of the best teams. They work well together. Paul used to have a style where he would just shoot every time, and now they're moving the puck around. You can't bank on Paul's shot from the point anymore, which makes it a lot harder to defend. They keep moving around. They spread the puck. They have a very good team, very hard to play against.
Yes.
The Tremblements, I mean, they're got to score some more goals. They are going to be a defensive minded team. Hopefully Dan is feeling better. He's able to kind of turn it up a bit. They have, very underrated defensemen in Fish and Chips. He's one of the guys that I hate playing against too.
Yep.
He knows how to kind of defensively block you without getting a penalty, but just doing it in a way that's very frustrating and kind of stifles any offense. So, given it's the last week, it's going to be a tight battle. I suspect it is a 6:30 game. Those are always dicey. If you're a parent, you're getting your kids food.
Exactly.
Throws people off. 6:30 games, honestly, they're the most unpredictable. So it could be a blowout in either direction. I really don't know. Like you said, parity is great in this league. I'll say Meteor, assuming everybody is there.
Sure. And Kenton, talk about two of the hotter goalies in the RFHL. This is a matchup of Brett and Mark. Talk to me a little bit about that matchup for the 6:30 game. Holy crow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll definitely both be looking for their team to play, defensive in front of them. Every goalie is a little different in terms of what, if they want to see the shots cleanly or if they'd rather have their players, block it. And it's tough in a tiny gym, right? One quick movement and someone can be right around you. So a lot of times people will be giving people a step on defense, or they'll be playing with their stick out. And that can lead to a lot of deflections or, half screen shots, natural movement screen shots, moving to the left or to the right on a shot. So those are the kinds of things that I know myself and a few other goalies that like to come out and cut off angles, like Alex. We don't like, those the goalies that like to stay in the net, stay a little more stationary. Like Brett and Mark, they typically do fine with those. Because they're bigger, they take up more than net. Must be nice, I guess. But
you just got to get the extra large chest protector.
I just gotta be like Joey on Friends and wear all the shirts all at once.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
The last week of the season is also sort of interesting because a lot of times you'll see the intensity sort of ramp up as people get ready for the playoffs.
Yep.
And also there's, jockeying for position, right? So,
right. Right.
It'll be a good week.
Definitely a good game, and one of the better goalie matchups that we've seen. A replay of the week 3 game, and I would love to tell you who won that game, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody put it in the comments.
This is a rematch. I'm sorry. Who are the teams?
Meteor Mayhem at Les Tremblements. That was
yes. So
yeah.
Meteor won 14-4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. They scored 14.
Yeah. All at 7.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's crazy. And oh, you know what, was Brett there? Was that maybe Brett's first game this year? Maybe, I think
that
could be, because I think he missed the first 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. I remember him. He had to work.
Brett's missed 3 games or 2 games. I know Mark's missed a game as well.
Yep. So the goalies will definitely be the difference there in that game. And then for the 7:30 game, I was going to have Furlano talk a little bit Storm Surge and Kenton's Firestorm Hockey Club.
Sure, yeah. So, I'll start with Firestorm. Those guys play great fundamental hockey.
They do.
Terrible goaltending, but the offense is off the charts. They lead the league in assists. They're one off from the league in block shots, and they hustle, right? So they're on you all the time. They don't give you any space. If you're playing against them, they don't let you kind of walk up with the puck, pass it around. Like they're on you. They're intense, and they're intense in a way that doesn't cause penalties. And then you have Ken shutting the door. Ken, you're having a great season this year.
Yes, he is.
To me, they're like the Dallas Stars, right? So they may not have like an S tier phenom. You don't have McKinnon or Kucherov, but they're solid top to bottom, and they just run you into the ground. They play offensively. They're a really hard team to play against. And with Storm Surge, they're a team that on paper, you think, you got Foes, right? So Foes at any time can go off for 10 goals. They're finally getting the chemistry that I think they were struggling with a bit. They've rattled off 2 wins in a row. Foes and Tom had some great chemistry.
Yep.
And I think they're going to be a danger in the playoffs. It's going to be, they're probably one of the better 7 seeds as of right now. I don't know, what the playoff scenarios entail or what it's going to hold. So I'm going to say Storm Surge in this game because I think Foes is turning into playoff Foes right now, and he's going to, when he's on top of his game, no goal in the world is going to stop some of his shots. And he's up there with Brad with pinpoint accuracy. I think Storm Surge will win a close one. In this one here. Sorry, Ken.
No, my team will thank you for the bulletin board material.
Yes, and I know you guys have been, or I know Ken's team has definitely been watching the podcast for that bulletin board material. So, but hey, it's the RFHL. Any team can win on any given week, and definitely looking forward to that game. As Furlano's absolutely correct, the Storm Surge are really starting to push through with not just Foes and Tom, but Jesse's having a heck of a season as well. I know they started off kind of slow because of guys missing games here and there, but a 7 seed I wouldn't want to play in the playoffs. I don't know who I really want to play. I don't think if there's anybody I really want to play in the playoffs.
I think you find too. I mean, now that we've played in this gym for such a long time and the skill level is ramping up, like missing a guy makes a difference.
Sure does.
Before it was like I used to love when a guy was missing because you get more floor time.
Yep.
But now it's like no, you really notice because your chemistry is different. You need everybody firing at the same time.
Exactly.
So that does make a difference.
Exactly, and that kind of brings me to the 8:30 game, the Tipsy Talking Twisters at the Fukushima Face-Off, and the Tipsy Talking Twisters, a tale of 2 teams, really. I mean, they really hoping Konko gets better from his injury earlier this year, but they were lucky to get Shane Ryan, and he plays a completely different style than Ryan Konko, and the both hustlers, both great defensive players, but definitely different styles, and I think they're really starting to adapt, and they'll be playing the Fukushima Face-Off, Furlano's team, and definitely a really good test for the Tipsy Talking Twisters going into the playoffs, having that Fukushima Face-Off intensity that they play with I think this is going to be a closer game than most people would think. But for both teams, really good matchup going into the playoffs. Both teams coming, Tipsy coming off of a win and Fukushima coming off of a tough loss. But with Furlano being back and just the very intense nature of the Fukushima face-off, one loss is one loss too many, and I really feel like they come back strong this week and take a 2-goal victory is my prediction. I won't give a score. What the hell? 8-6. Put an 8-6 up there. Is my prediction for this week with the Fukushima face-off besting the Tipsy Talking Twisters. In the 9:30 game, we're going to have our panelist Kenton talk about this one. The Tsunami Tacticians taking on my Sinkhole Sidewinders. Kenton, what do you got?
Well, at first glance, this looks like it could be all-out offensive battle. You have Tsunami just has top to bottom goal scorers.
Yep.
They put up 20+ goals twice this season, I think.
Right.
And then Sinkhole has Brad, who can single-handedly take over a game with his goal scoring. So I'm going to, instantly contradict that and say it'll be a low-scoring affair. I think that, there's going to be, like I said earlier, they're going to be ramping up for the playoffs. Things are going to be a little tighter. Not going to see the open shots that they're used to. There's going to be a lot more sticks in the way, a lot more shots that are just wide. Alex is going to come out and cut down those angles on Tsunami. And I think, Tim's been playing pretty well, considering all the shots that he typically sees.
He does see a lot of shots, that's for sure.
He's a heck of a lot of shots. I think if I was him, I probably would have lost about 20 pounds this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it turns out to be a pretty low scoring affair, considering. I'm going to say maybe a 2 or 3 goal game, maybe like 8-5, 8-6. But yeah, I think that'll be a great way to cap off the night with some RFHL after dark.
Absolutely. And it'll be kind of interesting as each game is played on Wednesday to see what the playoff scenarios will be from top to bottom. Each game will have an impact on the standings. And we're going to have to tighten up those tiebreakers. We'll get this, like I said, we had Sweet here earlier in the podcast trying to figure out what is what. And I think as the games go, you're going to see the people in the stands and the people watching on YouTube saying, all right, so if this happens, if he scores this many, it'll be a pretty fun night all around. But in my opinion, I really feel like the playoffs are just a new season. This is the end of the round robin, and now we're going into the playoffs, and it's going to be very intense. Any team can beat any team from what I've seen, not only last year, but this year. It's been a very good season as far as parity, and that's kind of what back me up here, guys, from other leagues you've played in where you've seen like top heavy teams just destroy like players that they don't even have business being on the ice with the top team. That's the best thing about the RFHL is the parity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the draft has a lot to do with it, right?
Yep.
I mean, everyone is competitive and picking the best teams and not necessarily the best players, but, you kind of mold your teams. I want to be the fast team. I want to be the hardworking team.
Yep.
And it really, keeps everything even.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, going hand in hand with that is everybody's familiarity with each other.
Yep.
Especially those of us that have played countless seasons with each other, just knowing how each other plays and,
yep.
When you're meshing styles together, it just makes everything that much tighter.
Absolutely. And, your teammate from one year can be your bitter rival the next year. So that's kind of what's the cool thing about this league is there's been talk in the past about why don't we make it a 30-game season for combined spring, winter, and fall? And I don't think that would be as much fun as what we do right now in terms of parity and the league. So wanted to wrap things up for this week with some closing thoughts. I know next week's games are going to be intense. The playoffs are going to be intense, but make sure to give some love to your referees after the game. Some of them, maybe wanted to do a broadcast or didn't even want to be a referee, just wanted to keep stats, So give some love to your referees. They're definitely, volunteering their time, and they don't get paid. As much as we joke about getting them paid off here and there, I think they have a really tough job, and special thanks to Sweet, who seems to do a lot of games when I know he definitely wants to broadcast here and there. So I think we'll try and get him some playoff action. And I know that next week's RFHL podcast will be hosted by Commissioner Sweetmeat, as he gets to produce the first week of the playoffs. I'll leave it to you guys with a final thought. Furlano, what is your final thought for the night as we head into the playoffs?
Yeah, wear goggles, everybody. Protect your eyes.
Yes.
That's my final thought.
Yes, and mine was going to be very similar to that. Wear a mouthpiece, wear goggles, and cut down.
I'm gonna come with a welding mask. They just get the little eye slits.
The first time I saw Gilson, and I thought he was an axe murderer because he had that helmet. I'm like, holy crap. It's like super Gilson, and then I know Bill Smith and the Fridmans wear helmets as well, but I'm gonna go with my glasses and my mouthpiece for now. But those are definitely must-haves with what me and Furlano have gone through the past couple of weeks. Furlano more so than I, but Kenton, any final thoughts as we headed towards week 10?
Don't shoot on me in the playoffs.
That's the strategy that Brandon had in the chat is
I don't know.
Don't shoot on me. Don't shoot on me.
No, I enjoy taking shots early. I like getting warmed up by taking a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Maybe a little reverse psychology. Don't shoot on me.
There you go. Might get some people before the playoffs into that mindset for sure. So, all right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you guys stopping by today. Is it Wednesday yet?